And thank you who are joining us today. We have been invited to share with you a method that we've come up with for organizing your digitized family photos. So as Elder Moore has stated, we are missionaries at the BYU Family History Center in Provo. And this photo shows you some of the equipment that is available there for you to digitize your own photos and movies and such that you might have that missionaries are happy to help you with. And you can call the library for questions as well as get help online if you're not within distance to visit in person. And if you have ever looked into the cost of digitizing photos and things, you'll find that it's quite expensive. So if you're able to take advantage of either BYU's equipment or that at a family search site that's near you, you can use that equipment without charge, which is a real great benefit. So this is a couple of really messy looking photos that have some of the items that we started with. A few years ago, I inherited from my parents a box with things that maybe are familiar to some of you: the prints, slides, videos, cassette, movie reels, documents, all kinds of things that were important to their history, but were sitting in a box in my basement. That wasn't very useful to me or to anyone else. So my first objective was to organize and digitize the things that I had inherited from them. So I started with that effort, which most of those pictures that I had, because there weren't a whole lot, or in particular grandparents, great grandparents, we go back a few generations, there weren't as many photos as we have today, hundreds that we might take in a certain event. But because there weren't as many, all of those ended up going on to Family Search. And I'll just make one comment here about putting memories onto Family Search. When you do that, this is another time that you want to be sure to add all the information you have. You might look at a memory on Family Search that has been added, and it's been tagged with the name of the person who is your relative, but there's no other information. There's no date, there's no location, there's no information about why or where that picture was taken. And so you have very limited knowledge that comes with that. So those should be labeled to include all the details that you know about them. But now we're going to continue on. Now we're talking more about the things that you're digitizing for your own use, maybe for your family. And because we do have so many pictures available, we probably don't want to put everyone on Family Search. You probably want to go through once you get them organized and pick out the ones that would be representative of a person's life. So the top picture shows the before, and then that's kind of a mess that you start with your physical pictures. And then the other picture shows that you could move from a non-digital mess to a digital mess. When you look at this pile of flash drives, can you tell which one has your family memories on it? And even if you label it, can you take that flash drive, put it into your computer, and know which picture you're going to find and how to locate a certain picture you're looking for?
So the challenge is, after you've digitized all these photos and you've got them in a flash drive somewhere, being able to find a photo, the needle in the haystack as it exists, with all these digital numbers, it's very difficult. So here's a sample file name of a digitized photo. So when it goes through the digitizing equipment, it automatically assigns a file number and file name. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see folders. So when we did our digitizing, here's folders of the day that we did the digitizing. And then on the right-hand side, we have all these digital files that actually have no meaning at all from just looking at it. So what we do, some may say, well, all you have to do is do a view large image and you can see the pictures. But if you've got thousands of pictures and you just have this file name, it's very difficult to find a specific memory about a specific individual or about an experience that happened to you while you were out on a trip as a family.
So when you look at this, so this picture is in New York, this one's in Hawaii. So even though these are in the same folder, they're not in any particular order. They're in order probably by a year, but they're not labeled, so we don't know that yet. So we're trying to narrow that down. Recently, we put together a book of family stories about travel and experiences that we've had. And once we had all these pictures labeled and had the specific information on them, we were able to go through our file and easily pick out a picture from a trip to New York, a trip to Hawaii, or wherever the location was that we were trying to write about without having to go through every picture that we owned in order to find those. And he's going to tell you about another.
So we're going to actually take you through an actual example of how this was effective. Now we're sort of jumping ahead to the end of the story, and then we're going to go through the details, but we want you to get excited about what you're about to see, how powerful this search capability is. So we're just going to click into this actual experience. About 3 years ago, our daughter Elisa, who coincidentally is on the line with us here.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. But our daughter Elisa calls me at the Family Search Library at BYU, and she says, "Dad, Katie's getting married here in another 3 weeks or so, and we need to get pictures together for the reception." I told her, "Just give me a second, let me see what I can find." And so I went into the work that and Diane, my wife here, Sister Coles, has been the one to do all the labeling because she's a lot smarter than I am in terms of the history of what's gone on in our family. But now that she's labeled all these, we just go up into the search field here up in the upper right-hand corner. You can see here, and just typed in Katie and hit the enter key, and immediately we have 593 pictures that came up of Katie throughout her life, and then we sorted it by name and by ascending, and now you can see that here we have Katie's birth and Katie's growing up, and on and on and on till the current times. That's how powerful this tool is that we were presenting to you here. So hopefully you'll kind of get excited as much as we have been about this capability. It is so powerful. Now, if we want to talk about going to Disneyland in 1986, if we want to talk about one of our other children and having the story about that, we can immediately type under the search field anything of interest. And it doesn't have to be a contiguous text string to be able to get every solution or every file name that meets that search criteria. So it's very powerful and very helpful. So now we're going to, hopefully you've sort of gotten excited about it. We'll go on ahead and continue on with this story. And so there are 3 simple steps that you go through in order to do this process. First of all, you assign your files intelligently, and then you create subfolders by year. You create the subfolders by year. Then you use the basic search functionality that is found off the shelf. There's nothing to sell. You don't have to go buy anything new. There's within this basic search functionality of both Microsoft products and Apple products, you can search and find anything you're looking for. So here's the steps. Renaming your files. You always name your files by 8 characters date. So it's always 8 characters if it's year, month, and day. And if the day is the 4th, it's 04. If the month is the 8th, it's 08. And then the year is always 4 characters. Then after you put in the date field, you put in the location where the picture was taken. And if there's something associated with that location, you could put that in there as well. And then you put in the names of every individual that's in the picture. There's a limit of about 255 characters. So you can actually write a long time before you run out of space on file naming. So an example down here, you'll see 1988 is the year, 08 is the month, 15th is the day, a space, location is Spain, and then the names, Diane, Dave, Elisa, Christy, Janine. So that's just an example of how you rename those files that you've digitized from that bogus number to a new number that is actually, or a file name that is actually useful in search. Then one of the things as you're this is sort of suggestions based upon some experience that we've had. We've labeled about 10,000 photos, and our experience is you should limit the number of photos that you scan to what you can reasonably edit between sessions. So if you come to your local library and want to do these scanning, limit it to 50 or 100 or whatever it is that you, when you go home and you start to relabel them, that you can get all those done before the next time you come to the next session to do scanning. The second suggestion that we have is that while you're editing, make sure that you delete your duplicates and any unwanted files so you don't complicate the whole labeling process. So then the second step is that you just simply create a folder at the top. We call it a root folder, all family photos, entitled All Family Photos. Then below that, every year, you'll see 1976, 77 pics. And then in 1987, all of the files that we've digitized and relabeled are located underneath this folder called 1987. You'll see that each one's labeled 1987. All right, hopefully that's clear enough. And then what we'll do is we'll use the basic search capability. The way searches work within both Microsoft and Apple products is that the search starts at the top folder. So you always select the top folder first, and then it searches every subfolder for whatever text string you put in the search field. So if you select the top folder, you type in the word Diane or Spain Diane or 1979 Janine, every file that matches that search all the way through the entire subfolder list will show up here on the right on the screen. Okay, so then once you've got the search results on the right screen, click the sort button and you sort by file name and by ascending. And all of a sudden, if you look under here, we typed in 1979 Janine. Everything that's yellowed are matching text from what you entered into the search field. So 1979 is highlighted in every case, and the Janine is highlighted in every case.
But if you did it differently and you put in only 1979,
You can't.
you would get different pictures that show only everything from 1979. And if you put in only Janine, then you would get all the pictures that show her, similar to what you saw when we put in the name Katie. So this narrows it to only those with those two search features.
The easiest way and most streamlined way for renaming files, and Sister Coles has got the most experience. She's done the relabeling of 10,000 files, so I'm going to have her show you how it's done.
Okay, first of all, don't get scared by the 10,000 number. You don't have to do 10,000 pictures. You can do the number of pictures that you want to do, and you can delete. So don't worry about keeping every picture. Not everyone is good, and some of them are duplicates. So
let me ask you, so there's been a note or message asked, were you able to use InfoView batch naming function to help you rename files from each folder? The answer is yes. We didn't, but it's possible that the editing features can ripple throughout the subfolders. Particularly as you're scanning and digitizing, it's very possible for you to actually format the file name with the date information. You have to be more meticulous and exact in how you're doing it. But you can set up the digitizing process, and then it will actually label all the files with the numerical sequence and separate.
Shows that. If we look right here on the left, this is what you would see when you put your flash drive in. It has your scan files. These are all the files that the folders that were named as we scanned. We just put a name on them that narrowed it down. So example, this one does say wedding pictures. We could put a year on that, and that would put the data in that we we're talking about into the pictures right away, so you don't have to necessarily guess on all information. So on the right, this is, like we said before, the name that's assigned once the scanning is done. That doesn't really correlate with anything in particular.
And you can, like I said before, you can edit the setup of the batch routine, of the digitizing batch routine, to allow file names to be more custom, but you're still going to have to do some custom editing as you go along. Otherwise, it'll take forever to do your batch files. So
We're talking now about pictures that were not done on a digital camera to start with. As you know, the ones that you do on your phone now have all the data there. They have a date, they have a location, and they have people that are recognized. But this was before that technology. I think there might be more technology that we didn't incorporate, but this is a system that's worked for us that could work for anyone. So what we want to show you now is how to get to the place where you can edit. So you're going to go up here in your menu, select view. And then you do the pull down, you'll see extra large icons is the first option. Once you get the icons up, then you see the actual pictures and the file names. If you'll notice, they have a .jpeg at the end of all of these pictures. When you start to edit, which you're going to edit this portion, you don't want to get rid of the JPEG because that will corrupt your file. So if you leave that visible, you'll have to select just this portion and leave that there. So in order to avoid having to work around that, go back to the view, get the pull down, go to the bottom where it says show, do your arrow to the right, and then follow this down where it says file name extensions. You see there's a click there next to it, that check. You want to uncheck that. And after you do that, you'll be able to view the file names without the JPEG on there. Then you can edit this easily without having to work around the JPEG. So the process is you find the picture you want to edit, the file name you want to edit, click on this one time and click into here a second time, and that makes it, once it's highlighted, it's ready for you to do the editing. This is after it's edited. You can see, once again, the 4-digit year, 2-digit month, and 2-digit day. Then put a space after. Don't put any punctuation like that before or after your file name or your date, because then the computer doesn't recognize it as the date. So no punctuation around the date. After the date, a space, type in the location as you want it, and then type in the names of people who are in it. Now, at this point, just let me point out, it's important to be consistent with what you put in. And this is maybe too much information on the location. Maybe you just want to put Utah. We have a son named Bradley and a grandson named Bradley. So labeling, if I could pick Brad as one and Bradley as the other, then it would be consistent throughout. So I could always find the correct person. On some that I started labeling, I was putting my mom in as grandma. And then I realized there's a whole lot of grandmas, and it made more sense to use her name. So I switched to just using her name. So, and the other thing is location. My parents lived in Carmichael, California, which is a suburb of Sacramento. I started putting in Sacramento as the location, and I decided just to stick with that because I want to go back and change it all. But Sacramento is now, that's what I have as far as their location. So just try and be consistent so that when you do searches, you'll be able to find the thing you want. And after you type in the text you want for the naming, then push the enter key, and it takes you to, it saves that information, so you can go to the next image.
okay, so now once you've got those files edited to the format that we're suggesting, you simply create a root folder called All Family Photos, and then a subfolder underneath that for every year that applies to you. So in 1974, pics is when we were married, and from that point forward represents a new folder. So it's easy. It's a library. So it's a place where we can store pictures by year. So that's the purpose for this, is to just create a by year. And then once you do that, once you've got this organization set up, and it's possible now for you to just cut those photos out of one folder and paste them into the appropriate folder of the pics file, or the pics folder of interest.
Or however you want to label them for you. But the years are a good way to narrow it down.
Okay, then once you've got those files in the appropriate folders, then you can use the search functionality. And by entering, in this example, 1979 Janine, all of those files with that date or that year and that name shows up as a hit or as a match. Then you're able to sort your files by name and by ascending order, and it now presents it to you chronologically on the screen. Okay, now we're going to take you through it.
All right, so this one again, I don't know if you saw that, but this one, I was doing this labeling here, highlighted that, put in the date, left a space. St. George is a location. You could put Utah if you want. It depends on how you want to search it later. And then after Marathon, I'm going to leave one more space, and I'm going to put the name of an individual who's in there that we, in our family. So that text is all done. If I push enter, then that saves it as the new file name. Now, because these are all duplicates of the same date and location, I don't have to type that over. I can save that, or I can cut that, copy that information. Sorry. I want to highlight everything except the name because the name will be different. Now, if you look at these pictures, not that we don't want all of them up here, but maybe we pick one of those and not all three. So you don't necessarily have to save every picture. This one's probably not a keeper. This one's probably not a keeper. So just kind of go through and say, this one's worth keeping and this one isn't. So now I've highlighted again the part I want to move over to the other one. I'm going to go Control C, which copies it. I'm going to go to this image, click it once, it'll put that little box around it. Click it a second time, it highlights where I'm going to replace that text. I'm going to be Control V, which will paste that in there. Now I'll just put a space and put in the name. So that one is done now. And in order to do the next one, which is all the same information, I'll copy that again, click once, click twice, and paste. Now this one is going to be a duplicate. When I push enter, it's going to ask if I want to keep this in the same location. If you want two pictures that have all the same data, you just push yes, and it will be automatically assigned a number that will distinguish it from the one before. So we can do it one more time because this is once again, we're going to paste that same information in there, enter, yes, we want to keep it. And so now it gives it a number 3. And you go on down through the rest of it, copying just this much of the information because all these are the same, and I won't do all of them, but we'll just go down to one here. We'll put this in, we'll push the paste, and then we'll put in the names for this one. So that's the process. If it makes sense to you, I hope it does. And like I said, keep the ones they're the best ones.
Okay, so now that we've shown you how to label your files, one additional thing that we thought would be interesting to at least briefly discuss is that, with all of the digital photos that you're taking with your cell phones nowadays, they're all sitting out on the cloud. So what we're about to talk about may or may not be something you want to do. The thing that we're talking about is taking those digital photos out of the cloud and putting them on your local secure folder file system that we're suggesting you. So the benefits of doing that, of taking the pictures out of the cloud, is that it saves memory that you're having to pay for every month, and it saves the storage costs that you're having to pay for. So it's a big benefit. And the other thing that I have thought about is that the sharing of photos with future generations is a little bit tricky when it's all out in the cloud. When you pass, all those files are sitting under secure folder. I know it's possible to share those photos, but you're going to be paying for all that stuff that you're storing out there forever, as long as it's there. So being able to take it off of the cloud and putting it on your local secure, and you want to create a method that allows you to create second backups and duplicate backups and put the copies in folder or in a safe place that it won't have a problem of losing. And we have moved some of our cloud files into our method that we've presented to you here and have found it to be very effective. So the next picture here, during our 50th wedding anniversary, we took all those files that we've digitized. Like I say, it's about 10,000, but we also put about 36,000 photos on the flash drive. So there's still a bit of work left for us to do to relabel. But remember, this is our whole life story. This is our family and so we wanted every one of our children during our 50th wedding anniversary, we wanted every one of our children to have a copy of this filing system that we've created.
Copy of the photos.
And we created 5 flash drives. And on each flash drive, every one of those photos. Now, like I say, we've got about 36,000 photos. We got a 256 flash drive. A 256 gigabyte flash drive can handle about 500,000 photos. So it's not going to be a problem.
One of the benefits to doing that is that gave us duplicates so that we don't have the files in just one place. So now we have our kids each have a copy of the files. So when something happens to one of them, there are backups. So it made us have automatic backups.
So we feel like it's providing a way for our children to now do searches on themselves and other family members. Sometime when there's a birthday going on, our children will go out and find pictures and load them onto our family WhatsApp and share those pictures and then congratulate for birthday and well wishes and all that. It's just a way to turn the hearts of our children to us and for us to turn to our children. We've had some really fun experiences as a family, created a lot of photos. I'm a photo nut, and so because that's the reason why we have 36,000 photos. This is a simple method. We feel like it's yielded some very powerful results. And just as an invitation, we're not getting any younger. If we don't take on the responsibility to label those pictures, the next generation may be asking, well, who is that in the photo anyway? So we want to bypass that experience and we want our children to feel connected. And that's the purpose for this presentation. So we feel like this method is a way to do that. We invite you to be able to participate in using this. We work at the family library. If you want a copy of the presentation, you want any further information about how it's done, we're happy to provide that. Just call and talk with us or talk with any of the missionaries. They'll be glad to help. That's the end of our presentation. Are there questions that you might want to put out on the chat that we can answer at this point?
There was one question from Randall, and he asked about if you had used an IR fan view to do a batch renaming.
Yeah, I answered that one already. The answer is yes. As you're setting up your batch digitizing process, there are tools provided within most software packages of the batch digitizer to say, I want the format to be this day or this date, this space, and this information. But you have to think of it as a large number of files as you're doing a batch like that. And so you can create some generic file names with a -1, -2, -3, but you're going to have to still go back in and label each one of those to make them consistent or specific to the picture that you're looking at. Really, this is a simple process. This is so simple that we think anybody can pick it up. Now, remember, my wife, who is a genius when it comes to labeling these, she's labeled 10,000. It's taken us about 2 years to do that. In preparation for the 50th wedding anniversary, we've spent about 2 years labeling that 10,000. We've got another 20,000 to go, but they're going to go in trickles. We're not going to get them all done overnight. But it's
there's enough of representation now that we feel like if we don't do the others, it will be less critical, but we've got things for all of our family members.
Another good question that was asked, what if you don't know the exact date or the day?
Okay, I'll answer that one because I did several, like from my grandparents, for instance, there are pictures of my grandma I think she was a teenager. She looked like she could be a teenager. So I just went from the date she was born, and I guessed she was maybe 16 here. I put in just a year that seemed right. And if there's anything in the background that looks like spring or fall or something, you can pick a month from that and then just pick a random day or put 00 if you don't even want to guess, just to fill in the 8 spaces. And then when I would put those onto Family Search, I would put something in the notes that said, this was not dated, but I believe it was at this time, so that people look at that and understand that it wasn't maybe 100% accurate. And the same with people, if you don't, or the location, do the best you can and make guesses if necessary.
But you always make sure you have 8 digits. If it's 00, just leave it 00. And you probably at least know the year or can guess a year as closely as possible to give a point of reference for the person that's doing searches. Someone else, Louise asks, do you have a key somewhere that gives surnames to the first names on the file? That's something you could certainly do. We felt like when we built this data set that it was going to be mostly for our children and their children, because they've all been close to us and throughout the years. And so we only have a couple Bradleys and a couple situations where the names sit on top of each other. At that point, you just want to make it consistent. So if it's Bradley 1, Bradley 2, or whatever it is, just create a naming convention that works for you. If there's a surname is different or whatever, you can implement it whatever you want. It's just up to you. You have 255 characters. You can type for a long time before you run out of space. And even group photos, we've had group photos where we will consume almost all of the 255 characters when we start putting in names. And so it's something, Louise, you'll need to kind of a convention you may want to work on that works best for you. Margaret asks, wow, will this be available in a printed format so that I can follow more closely? The answer is yes. We have this presentation here that will be available on the website after this. I guess it's next week that this will all become available so that you can follow it. And we serve on Wednesdays at the BYU Library. We're happy to answer those questions. If you just call in and ask for Elder and Sister Coles, we can get on and help you through any questions you might have. We're there all day on Wednesdays. Another question. If you don't have a scanner at your Family Search site,
There's a couple of options for that. If you're working from prints, you can go onto your phone in your Memories app and you can take pictures that way if you're going to put these things onto Family Search. If you don't want them for Family Search, you'll probably need to find a commercial way to digitize your photos. Depends on the number you're doing. If you're doing just a few and you want them on Family Search, then your phone works well to get them into your memories, or you can use your phone to take pictures.
There are a number of commercially available methods in which you can take your photos and send them off to a digitizing company and pay for those. Hopefully you'll find that your local Family Search site will have some capabilities or within your city or, close enough that you can get to and actually digitize. And thank you for letting us show this to you. We've been working on for 2 or 3 years and have found it to be extremely helpful. And those that we show it to get very excited. Don't go out and digitize everything at once. Just digitize what you can label, and it'll just incrementally, you'll see it grow out. Thanks, everyone.